I recently got sent this club as a gift from a PGA Tour winner, and it could help you transform your short game and help you ultimately lower your scores. But how can it do that? Because short game is an area that should be simple. It should be the easy bit. Hitting it 300 yards, that should be the difficult bit. You have to work out, you have to get strong, you have to get fast. Whereas I always think, especially golfers such as my dad. My dad's a 20 plus handicap, he's 70 years old, and he's never going to hit it 300 yards again, unless he hits it down a runway. But he can get a new short game, add shots to his arsenal and lower his scores. That means you can as well, guys. So this club, as you'll see, if Chris comes down and shows us, by the way, guys, welcome back to Get Good at Golf. If you are new here, smash that subscribe button. You can see we've got some sight lines here added to the club, and it's a nice little addition because if I want to play, say, a low shot here, I get that third sight line pointing up to my sternum. You'll see that sets the shaft forward and it de-lofts the club a little bit. That's static loft, so the loft on that club now is a little bit less, and as I take the club back, it's imperative that I keep that loft the same dynamically. The last thing I want to do is release that club massively, try and add dynamic loft to that after setting it up with the handle forward. And also ball position is imperative. Ball position is going to dictate our angle of attack. So dynamic loft and angle of attack are two massive factors in how you're going to get that ball progressing towards that flag. So say I want to play a low shot here, all I want to do, I want to have that third sight line pointing towards my sternum, the ball a tiny bit back in the stance, still nice and narrow. I'm not trying to generate loads of club head speed here, so a nice narrow stance can help massively. I want my weight leaning slightly to the left. That's going to again help that dynamic approach and angle of attack come slightly down on the ball, and from here all I want to do is move the upper body. You can see that ball's come out nicely, it's come out nice and firm, and then it's grabbed a little bit towards that flag. That's one way of doing this shot. The other way is middle of the stance. I'm going to have the second sight line pointing up, so you can see there's not as much forward shaft lean here. We are integrating the bounce more on this shot, so we have 8 degrees of bounce and an M grind on this club. That 8 degrees of bounce, if you were to open the club face up a little bit, will glide underneath the ball nicely. So this should set off a little bit higher. It'll have a little bit more grab because it's got more landing angle as well. See how the ball's more now in the middle of the stance as opposed to back, and it comes out a little bit higher. That one grabs a little bit more, and it's actually been a lot more under control, you could say. Both those shots are out the middle of the face. And then a third and final shot, by the way, Chris has got some fantastic drills for us that he's going to go through at the end of this video, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and throw a like on this video if you feel like it's going to improve your game. But as soon as I move that ball forward, I open the face up slightly, and you can see now the shaft is neutral. So we've gone from having forward shaft lean at the back, a little bit less forward shaft lean, to pretty much no forward shaft lean here. That is using all of that static 60 degrees of loft. From here, if that ball's slightly forward in the stance and I make the same swing, you can see the ball pops up in the air nicely. Now, you're never going to play that shot here because you don't need to. You don't need to lose the element of control of having the ball nice and low down. So for me, the shot certainly was the first shot we played here, and we'll look at some different circumstances in a moment. With the ball slightly towards the back, you can still use a lofted club because you're going to get the element of control, handle forward, and just a nice motion to release the club. That's going to be the closest shot that we've played. But just by understanding how static and dynamic loft works together with the loft and the shaft angle can help you massively improve your contact, improve getting it close to the flag, and help you getting good at golf.
So guys, fantastic points there from James, and obviously this is a fantastic golf club for you for understanding what you want to do for each shot, because how many times we see people struggle with, right, okay, I need to get my hands forward, outside of my foot, leading edges there, we know that then the sight line will be pointing too far left, and we're just going to dig that club straight into the ground, and we're going to take a big divot, maybe over the ball, and the ball goes there. So we need to think about, with all of these sight lines, we've got one main thing that has not being talked about, and that is releasing the club. A lot of people think as soon as we go for a low shot, I've got to hold it off. Yeah, that's low. That is low because it never left the ground. If we're holding that club off, we're going to again be changing the low point of that club. We're still wanting to release the club on every one of these shots. So whether we're playing a low one, whether we're playing a mid-flighted one or a high one, we're going to release these. And that's a big thing that this wedge is about, is setting up for that shot. So I've got this a little bit back in my stance. I'm going to play the low one here. but I'm going to be releasing the club late down at the golf ball. I'm going to get that release nice and late. You see then that comes out nice and low and runs towards it, and that's even with a 60 degree. So this is a 60 degree, but we can play those shots using these flight lines. We've then got to think, as soon as I go for the mid-flight, I'm just going to move that ball. I'm going to move that golf ball into the middle of my stand, still nice and narrow, but I'm going to release the club a little bit earlier here. I'm going to be releasing this club around here, and then on the way through, again, the club should be matching my spine angle. So on the way through, if I swing towards the camera, you see that angle is matching my spine. The club face is looking back at me. But even if I played a lower shot and it's back here, I'm still going to work that club down. I'm going to release the club here, and I'm going to release it on the way through, and I've still got that club matching my spine angle, and I can see the loft on that face. And this is one big misconception. Yes, we need to set up correctly, which these sight lines are absolutely great for, but then after that, we're still wanting to release that club and still start to see the loft looking back at us. So if I now go for the higher trajectory, again, if I get that ball a little bit forwards in my stance, I open that club, shaft nice and neutral, but still on the way through, even more so here, that loft is going to be pointing straight back to me. The leading edge is not going to be matching my spine angle because we've opened that club face up, but I should still see the loft. How many times I see people play a flop shot and the loft is pointing to the ground? That is not going to help us keep the ball in the air and get a consistent strike. So a little bit forwards in the stance, I've got my sight line, my weight's left on all of these shots, and then I'm just going to hold my finish and start to see that this is released early. I've released that nice and early, that's landed nice and soft, and that has given me the loft looking back at me. That's not the shot you would play from here, but these sight lines make
it was the closest one.
It was the closest one. These sight lines make it much easier to present the right loft, to get the setup right, to then play those shots. But we have to remember on every single one of those, we are releasing that club head. We have to let that release. If it's a low shot, the release is nice and late, but we're still releasing it. If it's a mid trajectory, it's going to be a little bit earlier. And if it's a high trajectory, it's going to be even earlier. It's going to be starting from here, throwing that loft down and maintaining that on the way through. We're not twisting, we're releasing that club head. That presents the loft, that gets the ball doing the trajectory that you want. So trial and error this. Get down on your chipping green, get around the green if you've got chance, and start to try and play those shots. Get your setup correct to start with, then think about, I am releasing this club to get all the desired flights to help you get good at golf.
One thing I want to say as well is the consistencies of the turf interaction from Chris there. Two huge consistencies, one being turf interaction, one being the weight never leaves that left Puma shoe. It's always on the left side, but you can still shallow it out a little bit to get the desired impact, to get the desired results, to get you good at golf.